Barclays Premier League football is back. We have our first game coming up later on today, Burnley versus Manchester City. It's been a short break, but it's been too long, and we're so excited to be back watching our favourite teams, watching our favourite league, and hoping, praying, believing for silverware again this season, which has started off nicely for us boys in red and white, although I'm wearing blue. I'm going to cover all of that and more in this episode of One Kick from Glory. I'm joined today by Matthew,
Hey.
Craig,
Yeah.
and we've got Mark joining us via phone. He's going to chime in with some cool opinions on his thoughts going into the new season. But to start things off, we're going to start off at the game that has dominated this week's headlines and the weekend's headlines too, and that is the Community Shield, Arsenal versus Manchester City. I'm going to start with you, Craig, talk about that game. So first things first, how did you feel watching the match? How did you feel about the result?
I was very happy with the result. It was a game where Man City scored like in the I think it was 80. Was it in the 80th minute they scored? 80 something minute they scored the goal, and I thought we were going to lose the game. And Arsenal should have fought their fight back. They brought on Trossard for Martinelli, and an instant impact. Martinelli, Trossard got a goal deflected on one of the players, and it went in. And then after that, I thought, Arsenal going to get the winner here. And they went to penalties and we beat them on penalties. I was very happy with the performance. I was very happy with Declan Rice. His performance is what he played like a Rolls Royce midfielder. I was happy with Partey. Them two can work well together this season. Odegaard was spinning man, sending man to different shops and all that. Ending careers. Send Kovacic to another shop, another dimension. Send him back to Chelsea kind of thing. But he really, on 2-4, I think Arsenal played well in that game. Even Havertz played well, had a couple good chances to score. Was very unlucky, but he held the ball up very well. All our substitutions played well. I was very special mention to Timber at left back. He was so good at left back. As soon as he got taken off, that's when we conceded the first goal. But when he played for the whole 90 minutes, it was solid. Nobody could get past him. Strong in the tackle, physical, and yeah, big up to the team.
I think it was a great performance, and just the kind of result that you want after what was a bit of a patchy pre-season from Arsenal. And we're going to talk about our thoughts on the preseason games a bit shortly. But for you, Matthew, just looking at that game, which is effectively, as I've called it, the English Super Cup, you might have differing views on it. But however, if Chelsea were in it and won it, I'm pretty certain you'd say it's step one towards a quadruple. I'm not saying that for Arsenal. All I'm saying is we've won the first trophy of this season, which it is, because if it was in any other country, it would be a Super Cup. But for some reason, we call it the Charity Shield or the Community Shield now. But for you, Matthew, what's your kind of thoughts on the match and the potential implication it might have on the longer season?
Well, I think all eyes are going to be on your team because you've had not just, I wouldn't say you had the most signings, but you've had the most significant signings. And we're not just talking in a way of filling areas of who you've got. You've pinched rivals. You've pinched from Chelsea. You've pinched from West Ham, both of who have had European success over time, pinching of other clubs. And these are big players, Havertz and Declan Rice are two massive additions to your team. So it's always going to be really interesting to see how those players were going to bond in technically the to the Premier League, the kind of the preview to the Premier League to kind of see what to expect. And, they haven't exactly hit the ground running, but what do you expect? It's only been a handful of games have been together. We're not going to know more until at least 5, 6, maybe 7 or 8 games in. But it's kind of like Craig just said, it was some of your players that you've had before that have kind of taken a bit of a shine, I don't know what happened with in midfield, but Odegaard might have just sent people to Box Park for and done some backs for him for here. You definitely see the Kovacic there, which is no regret. Like I told you about Kovacic, you could have him in where in front of goal, half an inch out. He will pass the ball to someone else. He only likes to score from 60 yards out, and even then, it's a bit of a miracle. But yeah, Havertz seems to be happy in what he's doing. Had a couple of half decent chances, like he said. The goals though were not great to concede from either side. It's just one of those things where it's still, and that's, I think, something that's very key for both the clubs, that they're both still very much in a kind of experimental phase, despite the fact of how much money you've spent and the additions, or should I say, the lettings off that they have had. Let's not forget, in place of say how Kovacic is come in, Gundogan is gone. Mahrez is gone. Right. You could argue two very significant squad players, especially Gundogan, who'd come up, who effectively won in the Premier League, not the season just gone, but the year previous. If it wasn't for him coming up against Villa, scoring, I think, 2 goals.
That's right.
they effectively league could go the other way. Plus, with Gundogan gone, there's a whole heap of goals that he won't score against Chelsea. So, yay. And also with Mahrez. So, yay on that one too. But, it goes down to penalties. It seems that they're allergic to winning the Community Shield. It's the second time in a row that they haven't won it. So this could be kind of allergic. But, got to win the games that are in front of you. And you've made a statement, leading on from the failure from last season, that you mean this is it, like we can beat Man City. It can be done. If we can do it in the rehearsal, we're going to do it in the matinee, main performance. So yeah, I mean your players they've made a good impression, but we won't know until the proper season properly starts. Looking at that table, then we'll see some real movement.
Yeah, I think what was really interesting for me was that you could tell in terms of preparation, Arsenal were ahead of Man City in terms of fitness. It's something that Guardiola himself said, and it did kind of play out in the game and what we saw from the performances. I think what I really liked as well was the manner in which we limited the chances Man City had in the first half to pretty much just pot shots from outside the box. Rodri had a nice shot, deflected, wide for a corner. I think it was Partey giveaway in the middle of the park, which he apologised for straight away. So they didn't really threaten us too much. And then the second half of the first half, we kind of dominated the game a bit more, started to show our play. Havertz with a couple of half chances in the box, which he was unfortunate not to put away. But for me, what I like most of all is the fact that he got those chances. I like how he made the space for himself. I like how he swiveled on the ball. I like what he was doing in that false nine role. I think he's definitely going to play it way better than he ever could have at Chelsea for many different reasons. But I want to hand it over to you now, Mark, just to hear your thoughts on the Community Shield and what impact or not impact it might have on the season coming forward.
Yeah, look, I think the Community Shield was a great game. Man City, Arsenal going at it. Man City obviously losing with the late stoppage time equaliser. I think the stoppage time thing's interesting. Obviously, Pep salts about it a little bit, but I think it's interesting. I think, ultimately they're trying to replicate what they did with the World Cup. So, but at the end of the day, it's a good result for Arsenal. They set the standard early and say, hey, we're going to get the Super Cup in the bag. Is it a trophy that anyone cares about? Not really. We won it last year, but everybody still said we went trophyless for the season. So, unless you win the big ones, it doesn't really matter. But, at the end of the day, it is a good way to open the season.
And I agree on that point. I do think it's great as opening season. But yeah, no, let's correct that now on the podcast. Liverpool did win one trophy last season. They won the Community Shield. Okay, right? They won the English Super Cup. I'm giving it to you guys, So you can have that. You had one trophy last year. Well done. That's equal with Manchester United. I feel like the Super Cup is more valuable than the Carabao Cup. But hey, actually, it is, because you get more money from the Super Cup than you do from
that is true.
The Carabao Cup. So there you go, Liverpool. Great, one trophy in for last season. But just that point that Mark made about the rules that have been changed. So obviously what they've done, which is in line with the World Cup we had in Qatar last winter, is that now they are extending play based on time wasting. So anytime the ball's not actively in play or people are wasting time, prolonged substitutions, people faking injuries, it's getting added on at the end of play. So I think Arsenal's equaliser came in the 110th minute, added on time, because I think it was an injury to Partey, or the headed injury with him, and then there was some other stuff. So I don't mind that. I think that's a good thing. But for you, Craig, how do you think that's going to play out as the season goes on? Do you think it's going to be there all the way through, or do you think by like January they would have phased it out and we're back to normal again?
They're going to have to review it. They'll review it. Eventually, managers will get... Imagine you're playing a game, you're 1-0 up, and something happens, and then they score in the 110th minute, and they score again in the next 100 and whatever minute. Managers are going to end up complaining, so this is not right. Complain to the referees union and say, this can't be done. This is not good football. So that means teams like, you got your Burnleys and teams like that who are trying, if they're beating a big club 1-0, they'll try and park the bus, bring on substitutions in the 90th minute, try every dirty tactic in the book to win the game. So I think it's a good thing for now. We'll see how it goes. And if it doesn't work, then they have to change the rules.
Yeah, I think the game we've got coming up later on today, Burnley Man City, is going to be a massive test for that. And it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Just a final question for you, Craig. Obviously, we won the Community Shield, the Super Cup, as I love to call it. And I think it's a massive mental hurdle to finally have a victory over Man City again, because we did beat them in the FA Cup run after his first season. A lot of you have forgotten that, but we did. Semi-finals. And then, of course, we beat you guys in the final. Oh, zoo! But what impact do you think this result is going to have for the players? Because I love looking at celebrations. I felt like there was even Arteta's reaction when we equalised. It felt like finally we've punctured that mental blockage of Man City.
Do you remember when Arsenal played Liverpool and we haven't beat Liverpool for a long time? and we had our mental blocks to beat them. And last season, all the teams that we lost to in the past, we beat them. Like last season, we beat Spurs away for how long Spurs had their new stadium. We haven't beat them at their new stadium. We haven't beat them at their old stadium for a long time. And we beaten that mental hurdle. Like last season, we were unbeaten in London derbies. I think did we lose? I don't think we lost any games in London. I don't think we were unbeaten all season. And I feel like, and we didn't really lose against the only big team we lost against last season was Man City, home and away, and in the FA Cup. All other big teams we beat Liverpool.
We drew away.
We drew away. We beat Newcastle home. We beat away.
Beat them away.
And drew at home. We
Man
beat
United.
Liverpool at home and drew them at
Anfield.
We lost against United at Old Trafford and we beat them at home.
Yeah, the Old Trafford game was absolutely shagged, by the way.
And we played Chelsea, we beat them home and away.
Yep.
And years going by, Chelsea always used to beat us at the Emirates. Always used to beat us at the Emirates.
That is true, because the previous season, Lukaku, Pablo Mari, when he sent him spinning like a... What a waste of... Anyway.
So our record against Chelsea the last couple of seasons is getting better now. So we beat the teams, the hard teams that we struggle against with Arsene Wenger or Emery in charge. The teams that we lost to, we've done well against them. Now we're beating Man City. We're beating Man City now in a neutral ground or community shield. It's a good thing. So now this season, that's a statement and intent that we've got. So when we play them again, we're not going to be psychologically like worried or scared that we can't beat them. So we kept on Saliba against Haaland, kept him very quiet, very, very quiet.
AKA Mr. Rolls Royce, William Saliba.
And Arteta's got a record that I would like to say. He's done 12 games at Wembley as a player and manager, and he's won 12 games as a manager and player. So he's won 12 times at Wembley as a manager and player. So he hasn't lost at Wembley as a manager.
You lot may as well rename Wembley to the Arsenal Dome.
So that record's an amazing record to have as a manager. That he's done well. He hasn't lost there. He's got a good record at Wembley.
He's paying his rent.
Yeah,
he's
man.
paying his rent, mate.
Yeah,
honestly. But yeah, I think that there's a great thoughts, and I think that's kind of how I assess it as well. I think there's a lot of good work that we've done. The result will mean something. We've got to build on it. We've got to do it in a game that counts. We have Man City in our first 10 games, which is crazy. And we talked about that in yesterday's podcast, which you guys is out now, can listen to. But before we talk about that, let's talk about the squads, because we've all done some business this summer. Some people have found their checkbook finally, Liverpool, and have made some investments too. And some people are struggling to get the deals they want over the line. I don't know why. West Ham. So anyway, not firing shots at anyone. Love you, Hammers. Thanks for your captain. I've greatly appreciated. But let's talk about our squads and how we think they look going into the season. Obviously, there's still plenty of weeks left to kind of get in those final pieces. But I want to start with you, Matt, and Chelsea. Like, how do you feel about your squad? And yes, we will go into the injuries in a bit, but let's just talk genuinely about your squad and how you feel before the season starts.
The general consensus I have at the moment is that there's a weight lifted off of players that I think either tried their best or were there just for a good time and probably just stinking out the dressing room. A combination of all three have just now gone, even if they're high profile, even if they've done well for us in the past, and even if they've cost us a bit of a bag to get in the first place. Just losing those high profile players that just weren't working in the club has somehow, I think, given a new lease of life going into a new season with the expectations kind of measured to where they are. I don't think there's expectations to do a huge amount with not having that European spot, obviously.
Got a question for you.
Yeah.
Who are the names of the players that you think were the stinkers that needed to move on?
That needed to move. Well, I don't think we look worse for having no Mount, no Havertz, no Pulisic, Kovacic. As soon as Jorginho went, he didn't know what to do anymore with his life.
What's Jorginho?
As soon as Jorginho went, what was the point?
It was great.
They worked well together until he dipped, and Kovacic was.
Kovacic was lost. Yeah, that's true.
He was lost.
Yeah.
Losing those players hasn't made us weaker.
You forgot one.
I've forgotten two.
Loftus Cheeks.
Lovely model, great model, great looking guy. He's been there for years and he hasn't established himself. He only had one, maybe half a good season of time there. It wasn't going to work. He needs to go. Pulisic promised a lot of him after a horrible injury, never came back. We've still got two stinkers that, good God, need to go. And that's Ziyech and Lukaku. Gotta go.
He's still there.
He's still there.
That's how you're not coming for him.
He failed his medical.
How do you?
He's
He's still there.
He failed his medical, Clive.
He's still there. A lot of people don't realise that he's actually still there. You look on all the things, he's still part of our
Yeah, he
club.
got squad number. Him and Lukaku have got squad number for the
And
season.
no
I
one
checked it
seems,
yesterday.
and look, he's not one to Juve, and everyone seems to have got on Ball Ziyech. I don't know, but just having they're the last two of the rot that got to be left. The rot that are there, but we're no worse without those bunch of players that are left behind. Because if anything, now those new signings are able to shine under a new manager with a new voice, and players slightly more free. The football got a bit stagnant after a while because of so many different directions. We didn't know where we were going. At least now with someone, there's one message, one set of instructions, a whole new bunch of players, young players that, can play a style of football that he wants. Looking at the preseason we just had, you have to say it worked. It really, really has worked. And I like what we see because we're just looking a bit more. I get the vibe that when Lampard first came in, where there wasn't really much riding, but there was a vibe there. We're playing expressive, we were fun, we were exciting, we were going forward. We actually look like we have some kind of style of play going on. All right, defensively, we're still letting a little bit. But at least on the other side, we're counteracting for it and we're not backing down. We're trying new and interesting things. The likes of Nkuku and Jackson have slotted in really, really well. They've made things step up. Sterling, likes of Sterling step up their game. Obviously, we've had the announcement of Reece James being their captain, which is a fantastic achievement. Obviously, now Espilicueta, he's gone to Atletico Madrid. He had his time was done at Chelsea. Conor Gallagher, he's improved. Mudryk scored a wicked goal during pre-season as well. I don't think we weren't beaten. We were not beaten at all. We were for the whole thing unbeaten. But there's some of those names there who have stepped up, have kind of taken on that weight a little bit and made it a little bit happier isn't the word, but I just think a bit more free. If that's a way of looking at it, whether they're happy there, I am not entirely sure. And I won't know until after those first few games in the league and to see how they are on the table. But losing those players, I'm not missing them as much as I thought I would. I might be different after a few games in. I don't know. But I don't care if I'm not there anymore because you went to deliver after that Champions League with potentially a Premier League and then some, but you didn't give it to me. So why am I going to get upset? And you're probably part of the reason why we fell so low in the league table last year. So why am I going to be upset? So genuinely in the moment, where the squad is right now, with the players we've got, if we can do what we're doing, I'm quite happy. So,
and I want to dig a bit deeper on that. But before I come back to you on that, I guess for you, Craig, looking at what you've heard from Chelsea and kind of how things are shaping up, what's your sort of assessment of their squad and how do you think things will go for them?
I like the look of Nicholas Jackson. I think he's a very good player. He reminds me of Drogba. The way he's strong,
steady.
physical.
Carry on. Strong, steady.
But I mean, he reminds me he's very physical, strong, and he's got eye for goal. Nkuku's a good signing as well. Who else did they bought? Mudryk's going to do well. I think Mudryk will do well this season. He's got pre-season under his belt. You got him halfway at the start of last season, June, January. A lot of things are going on in this country, a lot of issues and whatever. So he didn't really have a time to. Now he's got a pre-season under his belt, blended with new players, and he's a new number 10 for them as well. So that's a big responsibility, big number to wear at Chelsea. So he will do well. Reece James is going to kick on again, captain now, leader.
Stop getting injured.
Yeah, hopefully.
It's a hard one for him though.
You got this young kid called Colwell.
Levi, yeah.
He's going to be he's good.
He's good. Boy.
He's got John Terry's old number 26. So he'll definitely do well for them. He did well at Brighton last season. They tried to sign him. Chelsea said no. Gave him a 6-year contract. Him and Thiago Silva at the back, or Balotelli could play 3 at the back, or however you want to play it. I think Chelsea will do well this season. Though I think they'll get top 4. They're not in Europe, so you got a chance, but it's gonna be up and downs because you got a young team, you've got a lot of young players with not a lot of experience. You're gonna have up and down moments where because you're still in transition, innit? You're still trying to get new players in or whatever. But I think Pochettino is a good player when it comes to good manager, so not good player, good manager when it comes to young players. Did well at Spurs, did well at PSG with the young teams. Southampton as well. Espanyol when it was in Spain. So he knows how to work with young players. So you guys will be up. I think you guys are gonna have an up and down season this season. I think some games you'll win easily, some games you might struggle. But that's all in. Once he gets the rhythm out of them, the way how he wants them to play, then we'll see what happens. But I think maybe even if you get 5th this season apparently that's going to be Champions League spot this season as well. If you finish 5th, yeah. 5th? I read it up today. They're going to have this season. If you finish in 5th place, you get Champions League. So
European Conference or whatever.
I think we'll go down to 6th, 7th, 8th. Yeah, so 5 teams will qualify for Champions League this season. Apparently,
Spurs get a chance then.
Huh?
So Spurs get a chance.
Any chance?
if they don't sell Harry Kane, then maybe. But if they do, then I don't think so.
I'm sticking.
We'll see how that goes. But I want to just kind of talk about the injuries that you face in your squad. Obviously, we're going to go through the rest of our teams and our squad assessments, and we'll jump to Liverpool in a second. But right now, you are without Nkunku. Sad injury in pre-season.
So
he was doing
upset.
so well. You are also without Wesley Fofana, ACL. He's going to be out for a while. So Nkunku's knee injury. For Wesley Fofana, ACL. You've also got Benoit Badiashile and Noni Madueke, both out with hamstring injuries. And our Broja still hasn't returned back from his foot injury from last season. I mean, and the thing for me, which is really sad, is that Nkunku was looking like the truth. And he was looking like he just adapted to Chelsea, like the next big superstar. Now there's a setback there. I don't know how long he could be out for. Maybe like
3 months.
3 months.
I don't want
2 to 3 months. They said.
What I don't want for them to do, because I know that he's going to be potentially part of the France squad for qualifying for the Euros for next year, depending on how well they're doing. I wouldn't want him to be rushed back because he's only had a handful of games, so he won't be able to start his first Premier League game until nearing almost Christmas time. So if he's going to come back, don't rush him. But it's just so sad because you can see just how well he's blended into that squad. He did what Werner couldn't, just slot in and just get started straight away. Because their likenesses are very, very similar, but he's just a little bit more, appears to be a little bit more adaptable. Whenever you saw him in those pre-season games, it was always dangerous.
That's true.
And he's getting the goals that I was crying for. Never mind last season, but the season before, those poacher goals, just being in the right place at the right time. That suspicion of being offside, half of the win is being in the position in the first place.
That's it.
And he was there. I think it was against Fulham. It was against Fulham. I remember watching that game because all the other ones were really sporadic in their times. But I happened to catch that one. I remember it looked suspiciously like it was offside, but it wasn't because he was just in the right place at the right time. That Jackson and Nkunku connection working really well, and he was just there. And I could see him just being there. Just that when the ball just comes in, he just happens to be there. That's what we've been looking for so long. And now he's injured for potentially 3 months. It's so upsetting. And we got key games. We've got we've got Liverpool in the first game. It's a big hole to fill in this moment. It really is, but we'll have to ride it. I'm sure we'll be all right.
It's a massive hole to fill, and it's going to be a shame, and it's going to be interesting to see what Pochettino does to kind of cover that. But speaking of Liverpool, we're going to hear from Mark in terms of his thoughts on Liverpool, their squad, and how things are going to go for the new season.
Look, I think my assessments on Liverpool's squad is that they've signed well in midfield, but they need a defensive midfielder. And without a out-and-out defensive midfielder, they're going to struggle defensively. It looks a little shaky. They need a centre-back and, probably a out-and-out defensive midfielder. And without them two signings, you still do worry a little bit about Liverpool's position going into the new season. I think Europa League is good for squad depth, but kind of offers a bit of a distraction, I guess, until the latter stages, or works as a bit of a distraction until the latter stages. Obviously, Arsenal are very aware of that. So, I think that's my kind of thoughts on Liverpool moving forward. Still undecided on what's happening with Trent. I think it's a little all over the place. We need a little bit more clarity around some of these things, but defensive midfielder, Caicedo, Lavia, someone different out of the blue, but a defensive midfielder is needed.
Speaking of Moses Caicedo, there's news breaking today that Liverpool are about to make a bid. They've contacted Brighton about him. That would be a massive statement signing if you get him alongside McAllister. That's bringing back that Brighton trident. Then you've got Szoboszlai in there, who is just a wild shot. And I think, Szoboszlai potentially, hear me out on this, folks. Hear me out. Let me land, yeah? Szoboszlai potentially could have the impact to Liverpool that Coutinho had when he first joined them.
Agree.
I'm going to say that.
I agree.
Not wild. It's not wild at all.
It's not my worst ever take on this podcast, and I've had some bad ones. I think that's the most measured one I've had so far. But I just look at the game, and he's a set piece taker. He's a good dribbler. amazing long shots. You think of Coutinho, and the things that stood out with him is that his dribbling, is his finishing, his ability to shoot from far. And Liverpool don't have that unpredictability, or didn't have it last season.
They used to.
In their play. They used to.
Yeah, kicking long ranges, man.
Yeah, but now having that player that can do that is going to be very important. So we'll see how that all pans out. I mean, I guess just looking at their squad, they've had, Nunes has had like a full preseason now and a full season under his belt. Diaz is back from injury, scored an amazing near post flick in their last preseason game a couple nights ago, which I was really impressed with. Very happy there. Like I said, the other two new boys, McAllister and Szoboszlai, are getting into things. Szoboszlai had a good free kick and a good set piece. I think it was Szoboszlai's corner which Diaz flicked in, so that was nice to see. Gakpo is looking more and more like a baby knockoff Omri. Just saying. I'm seeing shades, and I'm a little bit jealous of you guys. A little bit jealous. It's a little bit. I'm not at the point now where I'm like, yo, we needed to get that deal done. But I'm at a point where I'm thinking there's something there. Centre forward spot for Gakpo long term. There's something there. I like what they're doing. Do you think, and I'll ask both of you this, start with you, Matthew, do you think Liverpool will be in the shout for the top places, especially if they can pull off this midfielder, whether it be Caicedo, whether it be Lavia, whether it be an unknown player that we haven't considered? Do you think they'll be in contention for the top three at least?
Well, it's gonna be 3 and 4 because the top two looking like it's gonna be between you and Man City is the top two. So we're looking at 2 more positions. So let's see what other clubs are a threat to that. So taking you two out the equation, it's not going to be Spurs. They're on the brink of losing Harry Kane, and even with Kane, they weren't that threatening. It's not going to be someone like West Ham. They haven't filled that hole that Declan Rice has left. They've got plans, they've got things, but they haven't actually done anything. Then there's Manchester United. And then there's Newcastle United. So a really realistic
Missing one.
Liverpool,
Aston Villa.
Can't
forget them.
The dark horse.
And you're missing one more.
Brighton.
So
it's going to be, I think, around those 4 teams: Newcastle, Villa, Brighton, and on an outer chance if they can get their stuff together, and possibly Manchester United. If Nunes can hit the ground running, because he equaled Jesus. He's now had a pre-season, a chance to work around with the players that he's now working with. Salah will possibly take a bit of a seat back with those new forwards coming forward. Trent coming forward as well is going to change things rather drastically. If they're able to get in Caicedo as well, and who else are after again?
Lavia, one of the two. If they can get that established, then, and if they're all fit and play in a way that I know in my mind how they think they could be the 3rd best team in the Premier League. I think that 4th spot will be with those other teams, your Brightons, your Villas, your Man United. I think if you're a Liverpool, you're aiming to get firmly into that top 4, not teetering around 4th or messing around with that. Have a good one in the Europa League, maybe even win the Europa League to establish how you're saying how Gakpo is looking like a young Henry, experiment it there in the Europa League, playing against teams where he's able to have a little bit more freedom rather than the teams in the Premier League. Allow him to have that freedom, potentially get to a final. You're in the FA Cup, League Cup, who knows? They're all going to necessarily get up for grabs because you two are going to be after the big ones for Champions League and the Premier League. I mean, one of you two, that's going to be your area. I really, really do. So they're going to be over that 3rd spot. Have a great one in the Europa League. Have Gakpo have that freedom. And now Caicedo or Lavia to dominate the midfield a little bit and just give Nunes that service in those particular games. Then you're looking at, I reckon they should be targeting 3rd. And I think Bobby will get 3rd. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how it all pans out. And I mean, I think Liverpool are going to be up there. I think they'll be up there. I think they're going to give Man City and us a bit of a tough time in that competition.
There's going to be about a 12 point gap between the 2nd place team from Liverpool, possibly.
Or you think there'll be a 10-place gap between Liverpool and then the team below them? Or
no, between you two.
Oh, so we top 2 and then a 10-point gap to 3rd, basically.
I can't call between the 2. I won't know until the first 2 games come through. That's but the gap will not be huge between you, them, and the team in 2nd.
Got you. Okay. Well, we'll see how that all pans out. And I guess just moving away from Liverpool now, let's talk about Arsenal. Super Cup champions. I'll keep saying that until you guys get bored and sick of it, but it is the truth. Deal with it. Very happy. For you, Craig, what's your thoughts on the squad? How do you feel about what we've done so far? And what and deals that are not fully done but are practically done. How do you feel about those?
I still feel we need 2-3 more players.
Always wanting.
I think if we sell Holding and we sell, I don't know, I heard rumours we might sell Holding and we might sell Tierney might get sold. So we need to get another defender in. We're definitely another right winger to challenge Saka, because Saka gets injured, then we're screwed. And we need a centre forward. I've been saying that for a long time, and definitely another centre forward, because if we sell Balogun, Jesus is injured at the moment, so I don't know how long he's going to be out for.
It's at about 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Yeah. It's not.
When he comes back, he's not going to be fully 100% like he was last season. So he's going to take him a while to get fit. So I think we need a backup striker, a good striker, an elite striker to get us at least 20 goals a season. If you combine Jesus and Nketiah, them two are not going to get us 20 goals a season. I'm sorry. Both of them together won't get us 20 goals a season.
Well, I think that's the challenge with Jesus. He has to hit those numbers. I think just looking at Arsenal squad, we have a lot of players that we need to move on, because right now, I think you can only register 25 or 26 for the Premier League. And we've got over 30. So, like, for example, the likes of Marquinhos are expecting to be loaned out by this weekend. Pepe, I don't think he'll be here come next weekend. He might still be here.
The sick test looking at him.
He might still be here come the start of the season, because there's not many more days left. Balogun, I mean, I don't know if Balogun, we'll see. I think he'll probably still be about for these first couple games, and then maybe something might get sorted out for him. That's our forward line. In midfield, you've got Lokonga, who at the moment I don't think has a future at Arsenal. I just don't think he has enough intensity in his play to be that midfielder. But either way, he could be kept along for the cups, and maybe he might show something that he had when we first got him. And what he was showing in pre-season when we played him left 8, he was quite good there. He's just not a good number 6. Then you've got El Neni, who we need to move on desperately. George will be kept around. And then you go into the back line and you've got Suarez, Cedric, who God knows why he's still at Arsenal. Like, it's just ridiculous now. Tavares, who I like, but, I just don't think he has a future at the club. And then you got Rob Holding, who, bless him, like, he's basically unofficially the dog sitter at Arsenal. Yeah. According to a couple of the players who were saying that he's always around. I think Smith first said he always sees Rob around the training ground with Arsenal's black chocolate Labrador. So those are the ones. And you've got likes of Tierney, who there's been lots of talk about, loan deals, sell deals. And then in the goalkeeping department, we've got Karl Hein, Runarsson, and Okonkwo. I think Okonkwo will probably go out on loan. Karl Hein might also get another loan again if David Raya comes in, which is a great deal. We've got a loan for 3 million with an obligation to buy at 27, which is a great bit of business. And then Runarsson just needs to get out of the club, because
one of your keepers has gone to Nottingham Forest as well.
Yeah, we sold Matt Turner, so that's and even that sale was 10 million, but people were a bit kind of skeptical about the numbers. But it's a £5 million profit. Bought him for 5 7 10. Like, I think Edu and Mikel have done a great business this summer so far. Obviously, the deals we've done out have been good so far. Deals we've done in have proved to be really good. You look at the numbers of what, Paqueta, £88 million bid from Man City to West Ham, rejected this evening. Harry Kane, £100 million bid accepted from Bayern Munich, but yet he still hasn't moved yet. No sign that he's going to accept it. Rumours that he wants to stay. So I think we've done really well with our business. I hear what you're saying about the numbers in terms of wanting extra players. I think there's rumours that Arsenal want another midfielder at number 6, which to me would signal that it will be a player that will be there to then he can happily go. Potentially Jorginho next season we moved on. And it also means that we can have a rotation option for Partey, because right now,
I think we've been linked with that Douglas Luiz from Aston Villa, from Tottenham and Arsenal. We're linked with him. I think that's a further looking at.
Yeah, I mean, we looked at him the season last summer, but we didn't quite get it over the line. So maybe there could be something there, but we'll see. But for me right now, I think I'm very happy with Arsenal squad. I think we need to sell players before we look to buy anyone. I do agree that I would like something extra in the forward line, and I would really want something else in midfield, just to kind of mix it up a little bit. But aside from that, I think we've put together a very interesting squad. But my challenge to our forward lines is, Nketiah, if you do play at the weekend, you had an issue last season where if you didn't start games, you didn't score, and you have to be able to score goals off the bench, because you're not going to be starting as many games as you would like. No. So we need goals from you off the bench. That's a big thing. And Jesus, when you're back, bro, I want 25 goals. I want 25 league goals. Like, you're good enough to get that. You are good enough to get that. You just need to get your finishing together and learn how to rasp the ball. Put some power behind it.
For a spanner in the works,
Go for it.
just a moment, Ivan Toney.
Well, the thing with Tony is, even if we were to sign him, that won't happen. He won't be available till January. So what we could do, which could be interesting, because this is the other undercurrent of the whole transfer dealings. I want to hear your thoughts on this as well, Craig. This David Raya deal, it's very interesting.
Very interesting.
Because Man United, I think it's Tottenham offered £40 million straight cash and they turned it down. Yet we've done a 3 million plus 27 million pound and they've accepted it. It feels like we're laying the groundwork for some further transfers. So, like I said on one of our previous podcasts at the back end of last season, I think one of our early preseason podcasts looking into this season was, I think the best move for all parties is Flo Balogun can go to Brentford in January and Ivan Toney can join Arsenal the other way in January. And we agreed a deal for Toney now that it will join in January. And we agreed a deal for Balogun now that he will also go there in January.
Because what you don't want is what happened to Crystal Palace with Wilfried Zaha leaving on a free to Galatasaray, where another club where he's been touted for years on years and years to go somewhere. It didn't work at United. Does not mean it wouldn't have worked somewhere else. What you don't want for their sake is for that to happen, to lose your talisman for nothing. If you're going to lose
how many years has he got in his contract, Tony? Has he got like a couple of years left on his contract, no?
I think he signed a new one. So if he's not playing at least until New Year, and in that time you're gonna have to find another striker or have your other players step up in that time.
Yeah.
From now until Christmas, when the games get really jammed up. So and that sometimes is the business end. So you have to do without him in the first place.
And Balogun, I think Balogun's got 2 years left on his contract. So by January, you only have like 18 months left on his contract.
I mean, personally, I would look, now thinking about it a bit more, obviously it depends how well the front options work, because we've got Trossard, we've got Havertz, who played there in the Super Cup really well, and Nketiah obviously he would see himself as second choice striker because he's officially, but obviously we'll see what Arteta does. There's scope for us to potentially move Balogun out on loan to Brentford in the Premier League, and I think maybe give him like a 6 months Premier League loan. January comes around, then we assess it and we say, okay, if it's working out well for you there, we'll do like a swap transfer type thing. We take in Toney, you keep Balogun. I don't know. There's scope for that, but
we're gonna have to put money on top of it. They're gonna just do a swap.
We'll pay for Toney, but it just depends on like
the valuation.
There's something that could be done there. But also on the flip side, if Tottenham do move on Harry Kane, they have wanted Toney. Would they pull the trigger and pay for him now, knowing that he won't come till January, which might be the best move for all parties concerned? Brentford get the money for a player they can't use anyway, and then they could look to bring in someone else. Although I don't know if they could.
I don't think they can do the transfer. That's what it's
transfer won't count till January. But you have that.
But he'll be there.
You
can have an agreement, but you can't do anything right now because of the whole ban thing.
Yeah.
But you have the money on your books, so potentially they could earmark that funds for a player. But I guess, talking about Arsenal, obviously we've got a few injuries, and we mentioned Jesus not being available for the start of the season, which is a big disappointment because I was looking forward to seeing what he was going to do. For you, Mark, like what impact do you think Arsenal will have without Jesus, and do you think it'll be better for us, or do you think we'll struggle without him?
Like for me, if I'm being totally honest, I think Arsenal look a better team with Trossard or Havertz up front rather than Gabriel Jesus. Like, you look at someone like Darwin Núñez, he is an out-and-out striker. He's fast, he's aggressive, he's strong. He doesn't always get the ball in the net, but he's got the characteristics of an out-and-out striker. And then you compare that to a Gakpo or a Firmino, false nine, deep lying, strings the play together, connects the play nicely. And that's what you want in a striker. Gabriel Jesus is neither of the two. He's neither an out-and-out striker that's fast, scores lots of goals, has these strong characteristics, or is he a connector, false nine, wins the ball back, keeps the play ticking around. He doesn't do either of them. So for me, I think Arsenal look better with Trossard in the gap, who does that better. Havertz in the gap, who does that better, although granted has shown that he couldn't fully do it at Chelsea. But I think you're going to get a different Havertz at Arsenal. So I actually think, with that in consideration, I think it's a blessing in disguise for Arsenal losing Gabriel Jesus. Whereas Nkunku missing for Chelsea is a big miss because he scored a lot of goals in the Bundesliga. He's a good number 10 who's going to be able to win the ball, get lots of assists, score lots of goals. I think Chelsea will miss him, and it will be hard for Chelsea to link up the play without a player of his quality in that kind of behind the striker position. So that would be my feeling on that.
Don't know about the Jesus link up play part though. I feel like that's one thing that he's been really good at. And I think even though, I mean, I guess a better comparison is looking at Trossard versus Nketiah in the same role stylistically for Arsenal. And I think last year we saw that when Trossard played up front, the fluidity returned, because Martinelli, when Nketiah was up front when in Jesus' absence, was basically redundant. And I guess to an extent in the charity Super Cup on the weekend, there was kind of similar with we didn't really see much of Martinelli in the game. He kind of played very wide. Saka had his usual 6, 7 out of 10 performance, not world breaking, but was always a threat, making things happen. So I'll be curious to see how Arteta kind of mixes it, whether he decides to go for Nketiah because of the goal promise, whether he sticks with Havertz because of just what it allows the rest of the team to do. And also at the end of the day, like, when you're playing against a team like Man City, you have to adapt to them a little bit. I think we did that a lot, and I think we had a game plan to kind of nullify their biggest threats, and also to kind of accentuate our own. The fact that we went long to Havertz and he was holding the ball up really well. There was a lovely play from Ramsdale up to him, and he just held off the defender and spun it out to the left wing. I was like, yes, that's I want to see more of that. That's the Havertz that you guys didn't have. You had Bambi on ice. We've got Van Persie light, in heavy air quotes, like how I say Gakpo is like an Aldi version of Omri, baby Omri, like Aldi version. I see that Lidl version of Van Persie with Havertz. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. But I guess for you, Craig, on a final note on that, like looking at the game we've got coming up against Nottingham Forest at the weekend, starting off on Saturday, our first game of the new season. What would you pick as your lineup, and who's your front three?
In goal, Ramsdale. Right back, Ben White. He was solid for us last season. Centre back, Saliba, Gabriel. Left back, Timber. Centre mid, number 6, Partey, Rice, and Odegaard is number 10. On the left, it's between Hazard and Trossard. Havertz and Trossard. No, it's between Martinelli and Trossard.
Yeah.
But you know what I would do? I'll play Trossard. Honestly, I'll play Trossard.
Okay.
So Trossard's been in top form in pre-season. He's scoring all the goals, been doing well. Play Trossard. Havertz is number 9, or the false 9, and of course Starboy Saka on the right.
For you, Matthew, if you were picking the Arsenal team this weekend, or what would you go for as a starting 11?
So I'm in an arm in between Havertz and Thing.
He was an arm between Martinelli and Trossard for the left wing spot.
I would say, and as much as I disagree with this, I think the team you have is pretty much the team that I would have, except, did you have Havertz up front?
Yeah.
I think I pretty much picked the same team, because I think him being up front for you is different from him being up front for us. We had nothing going to him. We were solely relying on him when he was not a striker to actually do something. But if you've got no Jesus, and if you want to try and, I know it's not only Nottingham Forest, but if you want to just kind of get that first game out of the way, I would say start with him, maybe put him on 75th minute for Nketiah, just so that Havertz doesn't get annoyed at playing him at the wrong position for all that time. So your team is pretty much what I would pretty much.
So you definitely drop Martinelli for Trossard, because Trossard's done well. I think Martinelli needs to not really fit.
My worry with Martinelli is that I look at him the way I look at Reece James. One injury and it all goes really, really wrong. And what you don't want is for someone as young as him and as young as Reece James in the same sort of way to have him injuries stack up to the point when they get into their later 20s and it's like they're watching a piece of glass and go kind of guide them. So you kind of look after players like that, because he's still very young.
Like 21, 22?
Yeah, whereas
22.
Whereas Trossard's a bit more Premier League hardened. So Trossard can take a hit. I'm not saying Martinelli can't, but Trossard can take a bit more.
I think Trossard can take a hit more than Martinelli. Martinelli if he gets hit, he goes down.
Well, the injury he had is a specific contact from a player. That should be at Arsenal for his apology, but he hasn't made it because he's apparently on strike now because he wants to go to Chelsea. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what we do. I would hope that whatever Arteta picks, we'll get the right balance for the team.
Trossard's on the rise from that game against Man City as well, so keep that form going.
Keep the same team, yeah. The team that came on, yeah.
I'm probably inclined to the same. I mean, I think that is probably the biggest debating point is that left wing spot, Martinelli versus Trossard. You could argue left back as well. Like if Zinchenko, because he played a bit at the weekend, not many minutes, but he gives a
I would have
showed a
started
bit.
him.
If he's fully fit, he definitely starts by default. But the way our Timber played the role, I could see Arteta sticking with that same back five, like you guys have all said. I think that midfield three, they'll probably stick with it as well. And then the front three, yeah, probably. I think Trossard deserves a reward for how he ended preseason. What he could do, which would be a very interesting curveball, and I don't know if he would do it, because it depends on Rice's fitness levels. You could also try Trossard in at left 8, Rice start on the bench, and have him come on later on to swap it. And then Martinelli also plays left wing, and then you have Havertz up front. And then that way you have the front three of Martinelli, Havertz, and Trossard all continuously interchange positions. Because in one of the preseason games, when we had Nketiah up front, we had Trossard left wing, and we had Havertz left 8, which is one of our preseason games in America. They were constantly interchanging positions. So there's 1 minute you had Nketiah through the middle, Trossard left, and then Havertz in the 8. Then next phase of play it was Havertz up front, Nketiah left wing, Trossard in the 8. Then next phase of play it was Nketiah in the 8, Trossard up front, Havertz left wing. So that's one option we could try, and I would be very intrigued if he does do it. But I do think, that game against Man City, I do think it was definitely a precursor for the season because of the injuries you've got. And sometimes you just want to have stability and pick a system that works until you have all your pieces, and then you can rotate things around. So that's what I expect there. I mean, looking across to you guys, obviously, for your first game of the season, big loss. Liverpool, you got them coming up. Massive game. You are playing them at home at Stamford Bridge on Sunday. So in light of all your injuries, what is your starting 11 for Chelsea?
Well, Special K is going to have to go in goal. He's the only real keeper that can do the...
You've got Robert Sanchez. Robert
Sanchez. I wouldn't put him in straight away. It'd be harsh on him. Then we have the other keeper we had during the preseason. He's not ready. He's good. He's not ready.
Bentinelli.
No, it wasn't him.
Lundstrom or Jamie Cumming?
No, I don't think he's...
You got Eddie Beach, you got Lucas Bergstrom, Marcus Bettinelli, and
his name
Jamie
started with
Cumming.
an S. His name escapes me. But I can remember his kind of face. He kind of looked a little bit like Melier from Leeds, but better.
Oh, that's Lucas Bergstrom then.
He was good. He was good. He's young, but he's good. But he's not ready quite yet. Special K in goal. Reece will go on the right. Chile's going to go on the left. Chalobah looking like he wants to leave. Could also say Cucurella did half decent this pre-season as well, but not enough for me to convince him to stay.
You're going to go for a back 4 or back 3?
I'm going to go for a back 3. So Chile is going to be...
Left wing back.
Reece is going to be right wing back. In the middle, we're going to have... It's a high profile game. I think having that defensive mind of Silva is just going to give me a little bit more... Give me at ease. Colwell, it's a lot to kind of expect it from Colwell, so that's going to be my 3.
Here's the 3. So you said Thiago Silva,
Reece James, and Ben Chilwell.
In the back 3?
No. What am I talking about?
Wing
I'm
back.
talking about wing back. Oh, I'm
Who's
talking
your
about
3
wing.
centre
I'm
backs?
talking rubbish. Sorry. So it's going to be... Sorry, I got confused there. It's going to be Silva. I can't be sure he's injured.
I mean, if you are going to play a back 3, you could have Diassi, Colwell, and Thiago Silva. You could have Trevor Chalobah instead. Or you could put in, I don't know, Cucurella if he can play that role.
I think with Chalobah, he's maturing a little bit more as well. I know he seems convinced he's not going to get that much first time. I don't think that's going to be a case. I think he's going to get a good amount of starting games, at least 20 out of the 38. So Chalobah, Silva, and Colwell will be my back 3.
Okay, with Chilwell and James as the 2 wing backs.
2 wing backs.
What's your midfield 2?
Midfield 2 is going to be Enzo Fernandez, and it's going to be Mudryk. Let's give him a chance. Let's see, recreate that kind of first, that pre-season energy.
Mudryk will play wide, wouldn't he?
Yeah, Mudryk's going to be wide. No. How many have we got? So I've got 3, and I've got 2. So it's going to be Enzo and... I'm not CH, for God's sake, not him. I had a team on my mind. I kind of circled it around Cuckoo, but I can't have him anymore. This is going to be...
Because structurally it'll be a 3-5-2.
Yeah.
So the back 3, then you have the wing backs as the 5 plus 3 which would be 2 sitting, 1 10, and then your 2 up top.
Yeah.
That's one way of doing it. Or you
Conor
could do a
Gallagher?
4-3-3.
Conor Gallagher's actually done quite decent.
So you could have Enzo and Gallagher as your 2,
Modric
Mudryk in the 10,
Modric's 10.
Sterling
and
on the
then
right,
Sterling.
Jackson, and
Nicholas
who's on the left?
Jackson.
Who can you put on the left? You can put Modric on the left as well.
You just 3, 5, 2.
So you could have Jackson and Sterling up top then.
Sterling can't play up. If Sterling's gonna be up top, he's gonna have someone with him. He can't. He's not a striker. He's more of a supply man. Every time in most of the games in pre-season, he was trying to supply someone. When he does get a thing on goal, he just tries that one little trick too many.
Yeah. So I mean, the way you could do it structurally, it will be a 3-5 or it'll be a 3-4-3 with. So you could have Jackson up top. Behind him, you've got Sterling and Mudryk in 3 roles.
Yeah.
And behind them, you've got Chilwell left, James right. Enzo, Gallagher, and then behind them you've got Chalobah, Colwell, and Thiago Silva.
And Kepa in goal.
And then Kepa in goal.
That game, I think that team did actually play partly in pre-season. I don't think Nkunku started straight away because this thing started. If it's pre-season technically started in June, he wasn't our player until the 1st of July.
Yeah.
So we've already had to play without him anyway. And I think we still won a couple games. Then Nkunku came in, kind of complete that little bit of a circle. So that's going to be that's in raw best party. That's the team I'm going to start with.
And then the other option you have is you could, instead of Gallagher, you could play Carney Chukwuemeka in the midfield too. You could also give Lewis Hall minutes. I don't know if you've loaned him out.
It's going out on loan. It's going out on loan.
So Carney Chukwuemeka could play there instead.
Yeah.
Up front, there's not really many other options. I think that's going to be it. Sterling, Jackson, and like Mudryk would have to be the ones.
Yeah.
Unless you want to bring back Romelu Lukaku.
He doesn't have a number. He doesn't have a space on the team. So
that's a no for him then.
I mean, look, if push came to absolute shove, and arguably he's working with probably a more creative and quicker team. So if he positions himself in the right place, it could work.
Still, you're £100 million striker, so you're gonna have to make it work somehow.
Nothing to say here.
Make it work or get rid.
Nothing to say here.
Really.
Who signed him? Was it Abramovich who signed him? Isn't it?
Yeah,
that was his last signing.
Tuchel didn't want him. Tuchel didn't want him. He wanted Haaland.
You wanted Cristiano.
Who wanted Cristiano?
No, sorry, your owners did. You knew.
Bodie wanted Ronaldo for the shirts.
Madness.
Tom Tuchel would not entertain it.
So Abramovich wanted Haaland.
No, Tuchel wanted Haaland.
Abramovich wanted Lukaku.
Yeah.
Hey, the Abramovich, he did good for you guys, but every now and again he made a few mistakes.
And Haaland would have been cheaper.
Shevchenko.
Haaland would have been cheaper.
That's true. That was his friend. He brought him over.
Yeah.
I guess now, thinking about it, obviously we've seen a lot of deals done this summer. What would you say has been like the best signing on paper? Outside of our clubs, who would you say has been like the best signing on paper that you've seen across the league?
Or
McAllister for Liverpool. For how much they got him for as well. That's a bargain.
What would you say?
For Newcastle.
Depends how well it works out though. Because I think, it could be. Depends how well it works out. I don't know who I would say at this point in time, which is weird because I thought I had a player in mind. But I don't know. That's unusual.
I think it's a lot. I think because a lot has happened, not necessarily for our clubs.
Yeah, there's been a lot of crazy deals going on. It's been very hard to keep up with everything. Oh, actually, no. No, I can't say that one. But yeah, I can't think of one right now. If anything comes to mind, I will suggest it. Or maybe I would say this: David De Gea being let go on a free transfer might well be the best bit of them all. To be honest, for Manchester United. I know Onana had made a slip on his debut, but I think that could be a great deal.
That's a good deal.
And then I guess for you, Mark, who would you say has been the signing of the season so far on paper, at least?
Signings of the season for me, without a shadow of a doubt, is Diaby at Aston Villa. I think he's just a class act. He's so fast. He's so tricky. He's got a good strike on him. You know, he can score from inside and outside the box. I just think he's class, and I think he's Aston Villa's best player, and I think he'll be very, very good this season. So Diaby for me, and then I think the next best signing in my book is Tonali at Newcastle, and I say that because of how good Tonali is defensively. I think it's a good coup. Defensive midfield, I think it's a good coup for Newcastle, but I also think it frees up Bruno Guimaraes to be more attacking and more aggressive and further up the field. And I think Newcastle needed that and have needed that. So I think that's a cracking signing for Newcastle.
Well, yeah, can't really argue with those. I still don't have a player in mind, I'm really trying to think across the league, like who's made signings and what those impacts of those signings have had. I would have said Nkunku for you guys, to be fair.
If he didn't get injured.
If he didn't get injured, I think he would have been. I'm still gonna put him down as that player. Injury aside, it's not his fault he got injured, but I still think on paper the money you've paid for him, and that could turn out to be an amazing bargain. And we'll see how it all pans out. I guess.
Please come back well. Please come back.
I guess on the final thing, obviously there's lots of drama happening around the world. We've mentioned Harry Kane and the potential of going to Bayern Munich. Obviously that's not been, he's just kind of bottling that, as is typical for him and his club. Mbappe at PSG, that is a mad situation. I guess for you, Craig, how do you see that panning out? I know we kind of talked in the group about the possibility of him going to Liverpool on loan, and that crazily being a possibility, but like, how do you see the Mbappe thing coming out? Because today it's been announced that he's staying at PSG, but no one knows what that means. Does that mean he's going to stay like he has always said he's going to stay and not go anywhere, or is he staying in that he's going to sign a new contract? But how do you think it's going to play out?
I feel like I don't think he's going to sign a new contract. I think he's gone in the summer. I think it's a really good deal to go to Madrid anyway. I think it's going to be his last season at PSG. But I don't think they're going to start him though. I think they took on his name, his picture of the outside the stadium.
Wow.
He's training with the reserve.
So he's fully exiled then.
Been exiled, yeah.
Dang.
Same in Neymar as well. Neymar's been exiled as well. That's why he put in a transfer request.
Well, both club and player are actively working on a transfer out to Neymar. Obviously, there's offers in Saudi. There's the possibility of him going to America, to
Or
Inter
Barcelona.
Miami, and then Barcelona have to decide if they want to make a deal to bring him back or not.
But I feel Neymar's too young to go to America or Qatar. He's only 31 years old. He can still play in Europe at the highest level. He can play for another 3 or 4 seasons at least.
That's what he wants. What does he want at this level?
But his injury record is not good either. He's been every season he's got problems with his ankles now. He's always getting ankle surgery all the time. Last time was his foot. This time was his ankle. So I don't know how much longer he's got at the top.
I've got to drop this. This is some breaking news. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but it's our responsibility to report it. So allegedly, PSG sent a letter to Kylian Mbappe, dated on August 4th, so last week, telling him that if he leaves for a free, the following things will happen. PSG will have to sell players. PSG will have to reconsider their policy of promoting academy players, and PSG will have to fire many employees. That is disgusting and childish from a club to even send that to a player. I mean, first and foremost, you guys offered him the crazy contract. No one forced you to. You could have and should have sold him when the opportunity to go to Madrid presented itself. You offered him crazy money to stay. That's the first mistake. Secondly, you can't hold a player to ransom. If he doesn't want to be there anymore, he doesn't want to be there anymore. Just let him go. And lastly, do you really think telling him that is going to make him stay even more?
Or want to play?
Why would you want to stay at a club that's treating you like you're a pariah? The guy has a dream. He wants to go to Madrid. He stayed at PSG for one last season. You signed the best player in world football, and look at how your fans treated him. You guys deserve nothing. I am so disappointed in Paris Saint-Germain. I mean, I'm disappointed in you guys. I have a PSG top. I have a PSG hat. I'm not going to get rid of them because they look nice, but I'm disappointed. I expected better, but it's just a shame.
That is something else.
It's just disgusting, but is what it is. Let's look ahead to the weekend. Well, actually, later on tonight. We started off talking about the first game of the season being back, Burnley, Man City. But for you, Craig, how do you think that game's going to go? First game of the season, Burnley versus Man City. What's your expectations? What's your hopes? What's your
2-1 Man City win. I think Man City are going to squeeze it. I don't think it's going to be a battering. I think Kompany knows a lot about Man City, and it's going to be very. Kompany's going to play like a defensive game, not going to play an attacking game, just to stop Haaland from scoring. I think City will get their goals in the second half. I think Burnley will score, but it's going to be a tight game. I don't know if it's going to be an open game.
What do you think, Matt?
Well, they let go. They want to. Wout Weghorst is going on for loan.
Oh,
he's off on loan, which may change things a little bit. I don't know who else there is going to do. Is going to be scoring the goals. I don't have a team well enough to see who's going to.
Well, I don't think Wout Weghorst was a threat to score goals anyway. So I think his departure might not make any difference. Doubt he would have even started the game in the
I
first
can't
place.
remember what I said in the 10 out of 10, but I'm with Craig here. The Burnley that got relegated is not the Burnley was getting promoted. They played some excellent football, which is part of the reason why they got promoted in the first place. Not losing out, and it's at home as well. Burnley's, even as a promoted team, Burnley's points is going to come from their home games, and I only think they only lost one home game last year. So here is where it's going to count. I can't remember what I said before. I don't see them necessarily winning, but I also don't necessarily see Man City winning. So I'm going to call it's going to be a 1-1 or a 0-0, but it's not going to be... I'd be very surprised if it was an absolute walkover for City. I just don't think it will. I think Man City are going to throw everything and Burnley are just going to hold on. Or Burnley are going to throw everything and they're going to just catch Man City just slacking just a little bit. So I'm calling a draw. It might be different to what I said before, but I think it'll be a draw.
I think it's the perfect game to open up the season, because there's just champions of the championship who ran away with it. One of Pep's disciples up against the master. It's just so much subplot there. And there's players that got points per. You got Michael Obafemi, you joined Burnley this summer. You got Jay Rodriguez, who's back again in the Prem. We were looking to prove what he can do. Nathan Redmond went there. They got Sanderberg recently, Jack Cork, Josh Brownhill, Johan Goodmanson. They got a decent squad.
Good players. They got some.
And the Congo should be joining them soon as well.
We hope.
And
Take
pray.
him. Take
him.
Yeah. Take him. You can have him for free.
You could argue that of all of his disciples, as much as he played Arteta over time, this could probably looking to be the one this could potentially be the toughest one, because Company knows him inside and out. He was with him for a very long time. He was his captain, won him endless Premier Leagues, endless domestic trophies. This is on domestic plane. So if anyone's going over domestic plane as well, being not just playing in the Premier League, but managing in the Championship, there's a lot at stake here. So there was a graphic earlier saying on Sky Sports of Pep's disciples and what they've gone on, and every one of them has gone on to produce something, whether it's winning a trophy or going really well in the season. So it'll be interesting because you got Van Company, you've got Arteta, you've got the current Leicester manager, if they ever cross paths.
Maresca?
I think so.
Something Maresca.
Yeah. There's a lot
Don't forget Xavi.
And don't forget Xavi. Don't never say never. He's producing. The Pep era, managerial area is very
Luis
much.
Enrique as well.
It's here. It is very much here. It's a tasty game. There's a lot riding. So
Did Guardiola never manage Enrique?
Yeah, but he's
They
coming
were
from Barca.
teammates, isn't it?
Yeah, but
the Barca fold.
Yeah,
Barca
Barca,
fold.
yeah.
He was the under 20, the Barca B manager, and Pep was the Barca main manager.
Ten Hag.
Ten Hag.
Ten Hag as well.
Ten Hag.
Ten Hag
It's a
worked
lot.
on the Guardiola as well, didn't he?
It's a
At
lot.
Bayern, yeah.
So we'll definitely see how it all pans out. We're excited to see how our teams do. Craig, just quickly on Arsenal, first game at home against Nottingham Forest. What's your prediction for the scoreline? What's your hope for that game?
3-1 Arsenal.
You're on Arsenal. We already shared in our 10v10 what
Yeah.
we thought about that. Do you think you'll get a result against Liverpool?
I still don't think we're gonna lose, but I think it's gonna be a 1-1 or a 2-2.
What do you think will be that game? Result in that game?
2-1 Chelsea.
Chelsea. So we'll see how it goes. We're hoping for a big strong start. I do think Liverpool might actually put Chelsea to the sword, to be honest, on reflection. I know in 10 out of 10, I did say it was going to be one of the key games for you guys, and I did think you might. And I think I said you were going to lose again. So anyway, but thanks for listening. We're so glad to have you guys back with us again for a brand new season. If it's your first time here, let us know what you thought about the episode. Let us know what you expect for your teams. And we are doing a special 8-7 fantasy football team group. So the link is going to be here. It's also in the description. So join us, join in. We want to see if you're a great coach. We want to see who does really well. And the winner will be invited on as a guest onto the podcast at the end of the season. And the person, if you're leading in January, we'll bring you on as well as a guest in January. That's us signing out. Have a great rest of the day. Peace.
Peace.
Big up.